So as winter is slowly approaching now, the longer, darker nights, miserable, wet, cold, damp, muddy, just you're in your tent, 2-person tent, you're in there for a long time. And I'm talking, when it gets really deep in at winter, we're talking 4:30, 4 o'clock, right to 8 o'clock the next morning. Now that is no good. Believe me, I spent many nights in tents doing that. But what I want to show you is hot tents. Now, if you're a subscriber to the channel, you know full well I've done a lot of hot tent camping over the last previous years. And I want to build a playlist showing people different types of hot tents, the pros and cons of each hot tent, what to expect if you use that type of hot tent. And I think I've got enough experience to go down the road of this. Now, there'll be a number of videos, not just this one. I want to bring different types of hot tents. We've got this one, we've got a bungalow, we've got dome, we've got pyramid ones, TP ones. We've got all types of different hot tents to show you. I wouldn't know what you'd call that other type. It's a triangle formation or something. I don't know. I will show that in the distant video, like distance videos, in the future videos, like I've been saying. But this one is from dandelion shell. Now I get on really well with dandelion shell, so what I'm talking about in this video, it isn't directly aimed at their company. It's aimed probably at every company what makes this type of tent. This type of tent, it's all right, don't get me wrong, but I want to bring it to attention the pros and cons about this tent. And when the stove's in place, I do have the dandelion stove down there. Now, like I say, it's nothing to do with the companies, because most companies are all using the same type of hot tent designs, let's say. Right, all the poles in place. There's 3 poles altogether. Pole 1 is where your stove jack is, what's here. Pole 2 is the slightly bigger one for the centre, and pole 3 is the end one. Some hot tents have a lot more poles than that, can have up to 6. Now, I'm not going to peg the tent out to its full potential, you know, or guidelines and everything, because there's no need for that. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4 guidelines altogether. But what I do like about this tent is, so you've got one door here what opens up. Like so, and then you have another one at the other side. Now, some brands what make this style of hot tent only really have, you know, them 2 doors. But what dandelion shell did is they made the back side of the tent a door as well. What I do find very good, because it's hard getting in and out of this side here when your stove is red hot. Very, very careful. Sometimes you can get too close to it. You might grab the stovepipe, you know, for that little bit of balance. So it is always on my mind that with tents like this. But if you want to get out in a rush, the back of the tent is another door. Like I say, I haven't really seen that on many other hot tents this type. So this is exactly what I mean. You got another way of getting in and out of the tent here. I just want to pull that out. But you wouldn't use this as the door. It would actually be so there you go. You got another zip here to get in and out of the tent. Then you can, if you really want to do, use some hiking sticks to hold this up like that. This is one of the cons about this tent. You do have the air vent here. You can close it up if you want, but you can still, airflow will come out a little bit. It'd be better if you, like what Pomola did, have a full zip there, so that really closes up like so, but you can't. Simple as that. So the issue with that is, when you're in the tent, you've got your stove going. All the heat of the stove will be rising up to the top of the tent, and it'll be making its way down each side of the tent, and you lose a lot of heat through that vent because you can't close it off. Now the idea of having a hot tent is that your tent is hot on the inside. But on another thing, you don't keep your tent hot all night long. We'll talk about that in a minute. So inside the hot tent, you have room for your stove, and then you've got your bedroom compartment, what's on this side of the tent. Here is where your stove will go. Now, this is where my issue with this design of a tent starts, because the lack of room what you have, it's not really good enough. And this is what I mean. I want to show you the pros and cons about each type of design of a hot tent. And I've used them enough to say, this is right, this is wrong, pay attention to this, try not to pay attention to this. But I'm gonna put the stove in place and then I'll show you exactly what I mean. So here we are. They have their own stove as well. So this is what you call a stove blanket or sheet. You put this down on the floor if you have the inner. Somewhere at home I've got the massive footprint for this tent, but I can't find it. But yeah, this is the protective footprint basically for your stove. So the first pipe that you're going to put on your stove, you need to see if it's got a dampener. As that light changes. So basically inside there's a little metal plate on a little spinner, and you've got this. So when you want your wood to burn for longer through the night, if you just close your dampener, basically it slows the burn down, so the burn lasts longer and the wood gets a little bit warmer for you. Yeah, it just restricts the airflow basically. Now there's airflow on the stove as well, from the front and the sides. This is what I always had a problem with air stove. But then when I looked into it, I thought that actually makes a lot of sense. Now I do have a lot more pipes for this stove. I think I burnt a lot of pine wood in it and all the sap stuck the pipe together. So I do need to work out where the hell I've put them other pipes when I start using this for the winter hot tent camping, because you do want that spark arrestor part to be a lot higher away from the tent. Now, when I first got this stove, I didn't like the idea of this plate moving around. Other stoves that I had, all this was solid on top. But then I had some cast iron dishes and I cooked on this stove, and what I realised, if you take this off, then the cast iron dish sits over that and the heat gets to the dish quicker to obviously cook your food, boil your water, whatever you use it for. There should be a better way of that being locked in place, because if you're just laying inside your tent and then you got your wood going and all of a sudden anything happens, a bit of wind gets your pipe or shakes your tent and that moves, any gap like that will allow fumes to come out of the stove and fill your tent, what is quite dangerous. Now this is the part where I really do dislike the design of this tent. When you're in it for the long winter nights, you are spending most of your time in this position, knelt over, you know, like now I'm in the tent, my head is touching the roof of the inner. You know, everything is done in this body shape. You can cross your legs, but you know, for over a short period of time, that's going to start aching. You're this close to the stove, so all the heat is going to start hitting you pretty bad. There's no way of having like chairs around so you're away from the stove. If you need that, then you're going to be in your bedroom part like this, which that means then you are going to be like sitting here like that. You know, your head's rubbing. It's not an issue, but it is a pain. And another thing about this design tent is the door. The door is a big issue for me, and it might not bother the people, but you know, if you are thinking about getting a design like this, it's something you need to know about. Yeah, so once all your sleeping setups in here, you're gonna have your bed cot, you're gonna have your air mat, your foam mat, sleeping bag, your rucksack. There you're gonna have your stove, your food, your water, your wood. So you're really like separated from, do you wanna be in your bedroom or do you wanna be there, legs crossed, near the stove? This design of tent handles really well in wind. Now I've got a video where me and Oscar Outdoors were out camping here in a big hammock one, and his hot tent were getting blown left, right, centre. This one, you couldn't have even noticed it was actually windy as it was. I'll share a link to that in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. I'm in my tent, and then I do go to Scott's tent, and then you see the difference. These tents are low profile. In a pain like this, I'm already getting leg cramp. You know, it is a pain like this, but it handles the rain and wind extremely well. I've got another tent from Pomoli. You've got more room to move around in, but the tent does not handle well in the wind. So there's a few pros and cons here about this type of tent. Next thing I want to talk about is this, the door. Now the door, if I can just sort the camera out all in one clip so we're not stopping and starting it all the time, I think that's clear enough. The door is attached to the footprint of the tent, and then you've got a mesh, but you can't unzip it. It's there, look, it's just there. It's either going to be in here or it's going to be there. They do give you some tie-out points like this. Anyway, yeah, there's tie-out points there, but still, you've got that. You know what I mean? It should be one of them designer zips where it goes all the way across here, and it's got a little pocket where you could just, you know, fold it up in this pocket so it's all out way. So you've only got that little bit of a small bathtub idea here. You don't have to worry about all this. That is, like, with me, one of the biggest problems with this design tent as well. And it's the same with some other design tents like that. Not just hot tents. I don't know why they think that's a fantastic idea. Just move it over, push it in the thing. Now, there's something I want to talk about what's very important. If you're hot tent camping, you do need to get a tester, an alarm. Basically, any nasty fumes that come off the tent, off the stove, sorry, into the tent, because it's sealed apart from the back end, fumes will build up, and that is a serious problem. You will end up rather dying or getting really ill about it. So do get a tester. Now I do have one. I'll bring it to the channel so you can see which one I had. I spent some serious money on it. When I'm talking serious money, I'm on about £40, because it's all around, it's got everything there. I've had some cheaper ones, I didn't feel safe with them, but in time, next hot tent video, I'll show you the alarm. So if it picks up any nasty fumes in I can't say them, carbon dioxide or monoxide, anyway, yeah, I can't say the word, I'm dyslexic, so it's like crazy for me. But that is the thing. And there's another thing what I've just realised is the front of the tent unzips on this one. I didn't realise that. That is pretty decent. I've not realised it had a front zip like it did with a back zip. So having your stove in a hot tent is quite important for the size of stove that you use. Now I've witnessed this myself. The smaller the tent you've got, the smaller stove you need. The bigger the tent, the bigger the stove. Now this is dandelion shells hot tent stove, as you can see. It's perfect for this tent and another tent what they've made so far. I think they are bringing more out as we get closer to winter. So I do believe as well this is the only tent that the hot tent stove that they do have. Now it's pretty simple. You've got some little shelves here. I put a lot of weight on this one because this one seems to be a little bit more bent down, so I do need to sort that out. I think I put my cast iron dish on there. Now what I've done previous is I've been cooking on there and I've had my kettle of water here. I have it pretty close to the stove so it keeps it warm with the heat from the stove. You do have two glass windows, one here and then you have one on the other side. Your door simply just opens up like that. You get a little tray inside where you can put your wood on. If I can get it to lay back down now. There we go. You get a little glass window at the front. This is your airflow, what I was on about earlier. So if you have it wide open and you have these ones here, there's another set here, I don't think you can see it. Let me move you around a little bit. See it there? You got some more airflow. If you open all the airflows on this stove, whatever wood you've got in is going to burn very, very fast because you've got full airflow. It's burning brilliantly. If you start dampening it down a little bit, it stops the airflow. So if you have it just like that, maybe with a little bit of a gap, the burn slows down so it burns the wood for longer. And I've noticed in previous times, but it makes the stove a lot hotter as well. Your pipe will glow red because all the heat, that is something what does happen. I do worry about touching the stovepipe sometimes, you know, just getting out and you're like, oh, balance. That is what I do fear quite a lot about these stoves. That's why I do believe the bigger tents are probably sometimes better. But yeah, you got a little glass window here and one at the front. You got your hinge, one at the side of me, and you got your hinge here. This is probably my biggest problem with this stove. I work at a sheet metal company. I wonder if there's something I could do, you know, weld that in place, and then with welding it with the heat, it might bore the top. So then any dish that I put on top may not sit flush with it, or straight, let's say. But yeah, this is something I don't like. Like I say, if it comes off through night of any reason, your fire's gonna be coming out of here, it's gonna melt the tent, it's gonna do everything. So that is my biggest concern. Let me know what you think about that within the comments, please. So you see here, the gap between the inner and the fly sheet of the tent. That is earlier what I run about, is if you've got this all closed up, like this, the heat will warm the material, but most of the heat goes between the material here and it goes out of the back vent. So that's what I ran about earlier. With the vent not being able to close off completely, you do lose a lot of heat that way. I've had other hot tents where you don't have that issue, but sometimes it does get very warm in these tents. So maybe that extra airflow helps it keep it to a nice comfortable balance. Is all else that I can think about this type of hot tent. My main issue is, and I'm going to say it, this is the worst part, how posh am I today, the worst point about these hot tents is this. You know, everything is like this. You're cooking, you're like this. You know, you're always in this position. And it does get very uncomfortable through the night. Or you're going to be laying down. So do consider that if you're thinking about buying a hot tent design like this. It may not bother you, but for myself, the big hot tents where I can move around and I've got room to move, they're a lot better. Now, I've had a lot of experience with different types of hot tents to know I enjoy hot tents where you can move around in. So I didn't realise this about this hot tent. I've only used it a couple of times. So once again, if you've got hiking poles, trekking poles, you probably could do that. So the tent, let's talk about the tent. This pipe, stove pipe, should be somewhere up here, away from the tent completely. Any sparks that do come out of here, they're going to burn through the material. It should be up here somewhere. I do have the pipes now, I've been thinking about where they are. The size of the tent, the length is all right, but you can just see it's just slightly above my waist, and I'm 5'10" maybe something like that. It's good in the wind, like I've said, but the issue is your lack of room within the tent. This from here to here is your sleeping area. From there to about there is your stove area. So you only have this much room really to be moving around in. And that's no bigger than 1.5 feet. So like I've already said, you spend a lot of time kneeling down, legs crossed, bending over. And they say it's a 2-man tent. I would not like to spend a night in this hot tent with somebody else. Lack of room, lack of moving around. The stove's in a good place for what it is, because the stove is away from the material around the side, so it don't burn the material. But the point is, I like the tent, but for a long winter night when it's really dark, a lot of hours, I like the tents, like dome tents or teepee tents, you know, where you can move around in. You can put your chair, and then you can have your stove going. You can do whatever you like to do, read a book, watch YouTube, edit videos if you're a YouTuber like myself. You know, it's not for that. It's not going to make you comfortable. It's just it is going to be a bit of a pain, to be truthful with you. But it's hot tent camping. You might absolutely love the design of these tents, and you might say it's the only one you've got and it's the only one you're ever going to need. If you're thinking about buying one like this, just do bear in mind about what I'm talking about with the kneeling down and leaning over. You know, every so often you're going to get out and you're going to stretch your back and give yourself a bit of a stretch around. Then that means you've got to come back out into the wet, cold weather. That's what you're trying to avoid with these hot tents. Now, the next one will be another small teepee tent, what I want to talk about. And I'm going to go through the pros and cons there. But with the other hot tent, it's completely different. You can do things what I've been on about, but there's other things you can't do with this hot tent. But this is what I want to do. I want to build this playlist so you can understand different types of hot tents, different pros and cons, just in case there's one little thing you want what one doesn't have. If that makes any sense anyway. So thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe to the channel to watch these videos and me doing hot tent camping, you can press this down here, somewhere over here, to subscribe to the channel. I still do bivvy bag camping, some hammock camping, tent camping, not just all based on hot tent camping. I'll share a hot tent camp video up there. I think it'll be this video. I'll share that up there for you, and you can see exactly what I mean by the room, because I think I did go on about it a little bit within that video. But also in this video, you see how this tent handles the wind. I hope you do press this, and I hope you've got time to comment and let me know. But for now, I want to say thanks for watching, and I hope I do see you next time. All the best.